All right, we're ready to start the fourth and final part of this Board of Accounts presentation. And it's just some miscellaneous type items that we think you need to know or want to make you aware of going forward. The first one is disposing of equipment. We spent the last part of part three talking about when you acquire equipment, how you do that. If your piece of equipment is more than 150,000, do bids, or if you need to do quotes or just follow your local policies. At some point in time, you'll be disposing of some of that equipment that you purchased under that method. And the provisions for disposing of equipment are under 52222. If you have one item with an estimated value of $1,000 or more, or if you've got more than one item with a collective value of $5,000 or more, you must sell the item or items at a public sale auction on the internet or accept sealed bids. If you under these amounts, the item or items can be sold at a private sale. So if you have a piece of equipment that you estimate a value of less than $1,000, and you know John Doe down the street wants to purchase it, you can sell that in a private sale. It can be sold in a private sale. You'll want to document how you come up at the estimated values for some of these items. We're not going to get real concerned during an audit on how you came up with it. We would want to see, though, some evidence that a piece of equipment had a certain value, and that was and based on that value, that was how you chose to get rid of it. You can also sell to other governments without advertising if each unit adopts similar resolutions for the sale in their board minutes. This is a common practice with fire departments. Maybe one of you is getting a new pickup truck or SUV, and the other department has an interest in taking your old one. You can switch that back and forth between the two without advertising. All you need is the resolution. And the council or your board of works should be authorizing the disposal of any assets that you have. There's a special clause in 52222 in section 12. A governmental body may transfer a title of surplus property to a fire department for the fire department's use in providing fire protection or emergency services. A fire department in the same county as a governmental body disposing of equipment has the right of first refusal. So a volunteer fire department, a fire protection district, or a fire territory gets first dibs on equipment being disposed of by a governmental body in the county. And the transfer of the item can be accomplished by sale, or they can gift it, or any other arrangement that's acceptable to both parties. And we'd recommend those arrangements be documented in writing. Conflict of interest disclosure statements. On the screen, I'm only showing the front page. There is a back page that may be in your handout materials if you have them. When this form is completed, it's uploaded into Gateway. And what I just clicked on shows part of the website. When you go to Gateway, and in that circle, the red circle where it says conflict of interest upload, is where you upload it. Your materials should also have some information on what Gateway looks like at the submission webpage. If you or one of your staff needs to submit one of these disclosure statements, get with your fiscal officer, your clerk treasurer, controller for more about Gateway. They can help you get on there and show you where to upload. Or if you've got questions, you can always contact the Board of Accounts. If you or any members of your department have an interest in a contract or a purchase with your governmental unit, your city or town or fire district, you need to disclose that by statute to the Board of Accounts, to the governing body, and to the county clerk in the county that you are in. And you do that by filling out and filing this disclosure form. So if you own a business, for example, that does business with your city or town, or your spouse works for you, that can be a conflict. If your 17-year-old son, for example, cleans out the station once in a week, then you could have a conflict that you would need to disclose. To file a statement, you can go online to this website and find an electronic form. When you go to the upload section in that red circle down at the bottom, you'll see what's on the bottom part of your handout. It's kind of hard to read, but in the second paragraph, there is a link to the electronic form. So what you want to do once you've got the form is fill it out, then print it out so it can be hand signed. After you've signed it, scan it to a PDF and then upload it in a gateway. On the back, there's a part for the signatures of the governing body to indicate they've approved it or that they're aware of it. And you'll want to have that complete document once it's signed by everyone scanned, and that's what you're going to upload. We get questions sometime on whether one is needed in certain circumstances in very specific cases. Our recommendation is, if there's ever a question of whether you need to fill out a conflict of interest disclosure form, you can go ahead and do it, whether you actually legally have a conflict or not. There's no penalty for filing this disclosure statement when, in fact, maybe you didn't have a disclosure or a conflict. But you'll also want to consult an attorney, because we wouldn't want the converse to be true. We wouldn't want you to actually have a situation that is a conflict and you not disclose it. So if you've got questions, get with the attorney that represents your entity and see what their legal advice is as far as making the disclosures. Follow the statute, go to these web pages, download the form, fill it out, sign it, and upload it, and you'll be good. Nepotism is another section area that we wanted to talk about. The statute governing nepotism is 36.1.20.2. We get a lot of questions from people, both officials and citizens, who think their community has a situation that would constitute nepotism. Most of the time, it's just a situation that looks like it could be nepotism, but to know for sure, you have to take a look at the statute and the local unit's policy, so the city or town's policy in this case. City or town's policy is important because it can be more restrictive than what's in the statute. So to truly tell if nepotism exists in a city or town, you have to look at both the statute and the policy. Individuals who are relatives may not be employed in a position that results in one relative being in the direct line of supervision of the other. And that direct line of supervision is important because you could have a relative separated by someone else who is supervising it and not be nepotism. So you could have a fire chief, and the fire chief's son is a firefighter. Maybe there's an assistant chief in between, and the son reports to the assistant chief and not directly to the fire chief. The assistant would report to the fire chief. In that case, where the son's reporting to the assistant chief, we would not take audit exception, meaning we would not have a problem with it during an audit if that was the case as it relates to 36.1.20.2. That's our audit position. Because the father, the chief, and this was not the direct line of supervision of the son, it wouldn't be an issue we would have. If you do run into that, again, get with an attorney to make sure from a legal standpoint how that relates. But a lot of times we will get questions from people that say, hey, so-and-so's son works for the department, that's nepotism, and they expect us to go in and stop it until we try to explain to them what the statute says as far as our audit goes. So that direct line of supervision, that's the key line in that statute. Relatives are defined in 36.1.20.2-8, pardon me, as a spouse, a parent, a step parent, a child or a stepchild, brother or sister, and stepbrothers and sisters, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, daughter or son-in-laws. And to be considered for that, you have to be employed full-time or part-time or temporary or intermittent or hourly. So employed, you have to be an employee, is included in the definitions within 36.1 20.2. Some other examples would be if the mayor's son is hired to mow grass in the summer. We don't think that would apply because normally the mayor would not have direct supervision of a person that was mowing grass. Let's say a council member is the spouse of a fire chief. We don't believe that would apply as nepotism, as the council member individually would not have quote unquote direct supervision of the chief. Bodies like the councils or board of works, they operate as a whole, and that body as a whole might have supervision over the fire chief, but one member of it wouldn't. So if a member of a governing body is married to a fire chief, we don't consider that nepotism. Now you might have a situation where, let's say in the clerk treasurer's office, the clerk treasurer hired her daughter as the deputy clerk. That would be something that we would take exception to, because traditionally a deputy reports directly to the elected official. And if the daughter was the deputy and the clerk treasurer was the mother, that would be direct supervision, and that would appear to not be in compliance with the statute. But again, it's going to reflect back to your city or town's policy that council has adopted, because it can be more restrictive than what that statute says. There are a couple of reports that you should be aware of, especially if you are a fire protection district. If you're a city or town, your clerk treasurer will be the one to file these, but they may need information from you to do so. The first one is the annual financial report. It shows the financial activity for a calendar year. It is due by March the 1st of the next year. And if it's filed late, the Board of Accounts can issue a subpoena to get that information filed as soon as possible. The next one is the 100R. It shows the compensation that's paid to public employees for a calendar year. It's due by January the 31st of the next year. And if it's late, it too can be subpoenaed by the state examiner. And we have had instances where we have issued a subpoena for information that's not been provided by a unit. The unit is still not responsive, and at that time, the Attorney General's office gets involved and files an action in a circuit court in that county that requires the responsible official to appear in court to explain to a judge why they haven't complied with the subpoena, to file the reports and provide that information. You don't want to get to that point. So if you have any issues with these reports, or anybody at your unit has issues with these reports and the deadline is coming up, have them get in contact with us. We can work with you. We can't really grant extensions. So let's say on this 100R, you're having trouble with it. You're not going to get it done by the end of January. Work with us, and we can avoid the subpoena process and issuing a subpoena because we know you're working on it. But when it comes to an audit, we might still have to write you up because you didn't get it to us by the end of January. For volunteer fire departments, they submit a report called an E1 with our agency. It's their financial report for a year, and it's also due by March the 1st. So a volunteer fire department would report financial assistance received from a governmental unit, meaning any money received from a city or a town or a township or a county for fire protection services. If you've got questions about this form, you can contact our office via email. Not myself, but there's another agency or another division within our agency that specializes in that and can answer your questions. You can email not-for-profit all one word, at sboa.in.gov, or you can call Jennifer Marshall or someone in that area. It's called Procured Audits, and they can help you. And Jennifer's number is on the slide. If you need more information or want more information on this E1 and the procedures involved with it, you can go to the Cities and Towns Bulletin from September 2016 on page 8 at the link that you see on the slide. And there's a picture of it on the left, so there's a lot of detailed information that I didn't get into, but that's where you can find out more. One last thing, this is going to apply to cities, towns, townships, fire protection districts, but the only person probably at this training that needs to be aware of it would be a fire protection district. There is some financial information that needs to be uploaded into Gateway each month. Most of the time, the fiscal officer at a city or a town will be doing it. But like I said, if you're a fire protection district, you're going to especially need to upload your bank reconciliation each month, the minutes of your board meetings, and what we refer to as a funds report. That's a list of each fund that you have, and it may just be one fund, but some places have more than one fund. So a list of each fund and the beginning balance in that fund for the month, the monthly receipts into that fund, the monthly disbursements out of that fund, and then an ending fund balance. And these are uploaded in Gateway again at the link you should see here. And then once you get there, over on the right-hand side, the third item down is where you can click to start the uploading process. Well, if you've got any questions that the State Board of Accounts can directly answer, please feel free to contact us either by phone or email. Due to the volume of inquiries that we get and the fact that we're out of the office quite a bit doing presentations in person, email might be more effective because we can check it a little easier, especially if we're at a conference and spending the night. But please feel free to try us either way, by phone or by email, and we will try to get to your question or your inquiry just as soon as we can. Here's the contact information again for myself, Todd Caldwell, or my partner, Susan Gordon, and the couple of email addresses that you can reach us at, or you can always call 317-232-2513. Thanks.